Hello and welcome to the Daily News Simplified, the why, what and how of newspaper reading. Today we will discuss the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 15th June 2018. So let's start. The news article on page number 6 is related to a report by NITI Ayog related to water crisis in India. The report says that India is facing its worst water crisis. It further says that the demand for potable water will outstrip supply by 2030. Now this topic will fall under the General Studies paper 1 under the Geography. It will also fall in the subtopic Resources. Now previously in the year 2015, a question was asked in General Studies paper 1 related to the water resources. The question read, India is well endowed with freshwater resources. Critically examine why it still suffers from water scarcity. So this topic becomes important for us. So under this we will try to understand the basic facts that have been highlighted by the report and what was the methodology used by NITI Ayog in reaching such conclusions. The report by NITI Ayog says that India is facing its worst water crisis in history and that the demand for potable water will outstrip supply by 2030 if steps are not taken. Further, the report highlights that nearly 6 million Indians faced high to extreme water stress and about 2 lakh people died every year due to inadequate access to safe water. The report further says that 21 cities including Delhi, Bengaluru, Chennai and Hyderabad, that is the metropolitan cities, will run out of groundwater by 2020 and this will have an impact on 100 million people. Further, there will be a 6% loss in country's gross domestic product or GDP by 2050 if the water crisis continues. And finally, the water crisis could be a threat to the food security as well. So these are the key observations by NITI Ayog. Now these points are important and can be used in any question in mains examination related to the water crisis, as these points are highlighting the gravity of water crisis situation in India. Further, the report says that groundwater resources, which account for about 40% of India's water supply, are being depleted at unsustainable rates. That is, the replenishment of such resources has become difficult now because of overconsumption. Further, the report says that up to 70% of India's water supply is contaminated. And we know that Government of India is undertaking the Swachh Bharat mission to deal with the situation of water contamination. Now let us understand the methodology used by NITI Ayog in conducting the study. The study ranked states based on how well they manage their water resources. Secondly, about 60% of the states were marked as low performers. The study was conducted on the basis of Composite Water Management Index, which has been developed by the NITI Ayog. So this becomes an important fact from prelims point of view. Further, the factors which are considered under this composite index are 9 broad sectors with 28 different indicators. Now these cover various aspects of groundwater, restoration of water bodies, irrigation, farm practices, drinking water, policy and governance. So all these factors are considered under this index. Now these indicators which are part of this composite index are important for us from the prelims point of view as well. So these indicators are the groundwater restoration, irrigation management, on-farm water use, drinking water supply and water policy and frameworks. So these indicators should be kept in mind. Now the NITI Ayog has analyzed the performance of states based on the Composite Water Management Index. And for analyzing the performance of these states, the states have been divided into non-Himalayan states and Northeast and Himalayan states. So under the non-Himalayan states, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh are the best performers, which are marked in the map by the green color. These are high performing states which score more than 65 under the Composite Water Index. Further, under the non-Himalayan states, Jharkhand, Bihar and Haryana are the worst performing states. In the northeastern and Himalayan states, Himachal Pradesh is the worst performer and it is facing one of the worst water crises this year, which has been continuously in news. Now Jharkhand and Rajasthan have scored low, yet they have made remarkable improvement when compared over 2 years. This is the observation of NITI Ayog. Now this report by NITI Ayog can be quoted in any answers related to the water crisis or water scarcity. Further, for analyzing any question related to water resources, we should first highlight what are the important water resources of India. For example, the surface water resources include rivers and lakes. For this, you can draw a map as well showing the major rivers of India. And the second important resource is the groundwater resource. And next, we should also analyze the impact of water crisis. What problems can arise due to this water crisis? So under major categories, the first impact would be the water disputes and conflicts. And these disputes and conflicts include the interstate river water disputes, for example, the Kaveri between Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. International water disputes, for example, India and Pakistan have issues over Indus water. Other international disputes include India and Bangladesh over Teesta river water sharing and India and China over Brahmaputra. The other impact of water crisis would be on agriculture and food security. So these are only basic pointers which will help you in answering questions related to water scarcity. With this, let us move on to the next article. The article on page number 13 is related to the wholesale price index. Now the article reads that wholesale price index inflation is at 14-month high in May. Now this topic falls under the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic economic development. Previously, two questions have been asked based on the indices which gauge the inflation in Indian economy. This question was asked in the year 2015 and another question was asked in the year 2010. So let us try to understand some basic facts related to the WPI index and we will try to answer these questions as well. Now WPI stands for the wholesale price index and WPI is an index that tracks the changes in the price of goods at the stages before the retail level. This means that it tracks the changes at the wholesale level or the bulk level. Secondly, it shows the average price change of goods included in the index and is often expressed as a ratio or percentage. Now, the index basket of WPI covers commodities falling under three major groups. These include the primary articles, fuel and power articles, and manufactured products. Under the primary articles, food items are included. Now, the number of commodities included in these three major groups are 117 articles are part of primary articles, 16 commodities are under fuel and power, and 564 commodities are under manufactured products. This shows that the highest percentage is of manufacturing products under WPI. And the primary articles have the weightage of 22% and fuel and power has the weightage of 13%. Further, the base year of WPI inflation is 2011 and 12. Nextly, the agency which brings out WPI inflation is important from prelims point of view. Now in India, the Office of Economic Advisor under the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, which is in turn under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, calculates the WPI. So these are some important facts related to WPI. So WPI is an index that tracks the changes in the price of goods in the stages before retail at the wholesale level. It shows the average price change of goods included in the index and is expressed as percentage. The highest weightage in WPI is of manufactured products and the base year is 2011-12. And the agency which calculates the WPI is the Office of Economic Advisor under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Now another important point is that RBI does not use WPI for calculation of inflation and does not use WPI for its monetary policy decisions. Earlier RBI used WPI and now it is using CPI, that is the Consumer Price Index, for its monetary policy decisions. Now the agency that brings out WPI is important because previously in the year 2015 a question was asked which read the Consumer Price Index number of industrial workers is brought out by. The correct answer in this case was C, Labour Bureau. Now another question was asked in 2010 which read, with reference to India, consider the following statements. The first statement was, the WPI in India is available on a monthly basis. And the second statement was, as compared to Consumer Price Index, WPI gives less weight to food articles. The first statement is correct because WPI is brought out on a monthly basis. And the second statement is also correct because in CPI or the Consumer Price Index, the weightage of food articles is around 57%. While in WPI, as we have seen, it is only about 22%. So the second statement is also correct. So the correct answer is C, both 1 and 2. Now after understanding certain basic facts related to wholesale price index, you will be able to answer this question. So try to answer this question and put your answer in the comment section. With this, let us move on to the next article. This news on page number 13 is related to an increase in the benchmark overnight lending rate by the Federal Reserve of United States. Now this article says that United States Federal Reserve has increased the benchmark lending rate from 1.75% to 2%. Now this rate is similar to RBI's repo rate. And we know that repo rate is an important tool of monetary policy of RBI. Similarly, the benchmark lending rate is an important monetary policy tool of United States Federal Reserve. Now under this article, we will try to understand the basic impacts of this increase in rate on India or the Indian economy. Now this topic will fall under the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic economic development. Now the impact of the increase in lending rate by the Federal Reserve of United States on India are that, first, it will lead to a slowdown of dollar inflows in equity and debt. Now this is because the foreign institutional investors will move from Indian market to the United States market. Now this is because the investment in United States is considered as safe and because of the increase in the rate, there will be good returns on their investments. So the foreign institutional investors will move to United States. So this will lead to a slowdown in dollar inflows in equity and debt. Secondly, there will be a pressure on the rupee value, that is the exchange rate of rupee. Now, due to the decreased supply of United States dollar, Indians will have to pay more in their local currency to buy $1. Now, this will lead to a depreciation of the rupee. Now, a decrease in the value of rupee will make imports costly, and this is likely to have an impact on the balance of payment. Because in India's case, it is heavily dependent upon oil imports, and an increase in oil import bill will have an impact on the balance of payment as well. And finally, the international debt for India will become expensive. This is because Indians will have to pay more in their local currency against the debt raised in international market. So the likely impact of increase in the rates by the Federal Reserve of United States are that it will lead to a slowdown of dollar inflows in equity and debt. It will increase the pressure on rupee value, and rupee value can decrease. It will have an adverse impact on balance of payment, and finally, it will make the international debt expensive for Indians. Now, after understanding the impact of a hike by the Federal Reserve, you must be able to answer this question. So try and attempt this question and put your answer in the comment section. With this, let us move on to the next article. The articles on page number 1 and page number 8 are related to India-Maldives relations. The focus of these articles is that relations between India and Maldives have deteriorated extensively. Now, this topic will fall under the General Studies paper 2 under the topic International Relations. Previously in the year 2013, a question was asked which read, discuss the political development in Maldives in the last 2 years. Should they be of any cause of concern to India? So we'll try to understand the India-Maldives relations and the timeline of the crisis. Also, we will try to understand what are the recent issues that have developed between India and Maldives. Now, the crisis in Maldives has been discussed in detail in the Focus magazine of March month. So we'll try to understand key facts related to the crisis and the timeline of the crisis as well. So in the month of March, the crisis in Maldives was because of a verdict by Supreme Court, and it led to a constitutional crisis. So the crisis in Maldives started in the year 2012. Now in 2012, the Chief Justice of Maldives was arrested by the government led by the President Mohammad Nasheed. The arrest led to a revolt by the police and bureaucracy. Under pressure, the President Nasheed resigned and asserted that he was forced out in a coup. And finally, a Commonwealth-backed investigation denied the claim of President Nasheed that he was forced to quit because of a coup. Now, in the year 2013, after the removal of President Nasheed, elections were again held and Abdullah Yameen won the presidential election. But this election was annulled by the Supreme Court of Maldives, and Supreme Court also suspended the election commissioner of the Maldives. However, despite these annulment by the Supreme Court, the Abdullah Yameen government continued in office. In the year 2015, the previous president Mohammad Nasheed was arrested on the charges of terrorism, and he was jailed for 13 years under the Abdullah Yameen government. The arrests led to protests across Maldives, and an emergency was declared by the current president Yameen. Now, in the year 2016, the former president Mohammad Nasheed was granted medical leave to United Kingdom. However, upon leaving Maldives, he was granted a refugee status in the United Kingdom. However, as a reaction to this, the Maldives left the Commonwealth after it was threatened with suspension to ensure fair and transparent democracy in Maldives. So in 2012, the crisis in Maldives was started by the arrest of Chief Justice of Maldives by the government of President Mohammad Nasheed. However, under pressure, the President Nasheed had to resign, and he claimed that he was forced out because of a coup. Further, in the year 2013, another election was held and Abdullah Yameen won the presidential election. However, in this case, the Supreme Court annulled the election, but despite the annulment of the election, the Abdullah Yameen government continued in office. In the year 2015, the former President Mohammad Nasheed was arrested, and due to this, protests were held across Maldives. And due to this, the present government at that point of time declared the emergency. In the year 2016, Mohammad Nasheed was granted medical leave to United Kingdom, and upon leaving Maldives, he was granted refugee status in United Kingdom. Due to this, Maldives left the Commonwealth. Now, the recent crisis in the year 2018 in Maldives started when the Supreme Court of Maldives ordered the release of several opposition leaders that were arrested and jailed by the President Yameen government. Now, the people who were arrested included the former President Nasheed as well. In this case, the Attorney General of Maldives asserted that the government cannot follow the Supreme Court ruling and turned the Supreme Court order as illegal. However, subsequently, the Parliament of Maldives, which is named as the Majlis, and the Supreme Court were shut down, and several opposition leaders such as the former President Qayyum were arrested by the President Yameen government. And finally, due to this crisis, President Yameen declared the emergency in Maldives. So in the year 2018, the crisis again started because of the Supreme Court ruling which asked for release of several opposition leaders. Now let us understand the reactions to Maldives crisis and the concerns raised by India. Now, regarding the Chinese reaction on Maldives crisis, China and the President Yamin government have showed reciprocal understanding and friendship, which was mostly seen in the Maldives, which signed first country-specific free trade agreement with China. Now, China has asserted that a homegrown solution should be provided to the Maldivian crisis. However, it indirectly asserted that other countries should not interfere in the Maldivian crisis. Now, the concern regarding homegrown solution is that the homegrown solution would help President Yamin since the opposition is either in exile or in jail. Therefore, such a solution would not be strongly negotiated and would therefore favor the Yamin government itself. So, the crux of this point is that China and the President Yamin government have a reciprocal understanding and friendship. Now, this was visible in the first country specific free trade agreement signed by Maldives with China. And China has asserted for a homegrown solution which favors the President Yamin government because the opposition leaders are either in jail or in exile. Now, the Indian reaction has been that India has asserted that the President Yamin government should lift the emergency and allow for a free and transparent functioning of the Maldives parliament and judiciary. Now, India also wants the political prisoners to be freed. Further, it has been asserted that India should protect its national interest in Maldives. Now, this is because it is feared that if India does not take care of its national interests, Maldives will become a client state of China, and therefore India should ensure its strategic stronghold in Maldives. So, the Indian demand is that the emergency should be lifted, free and transparent functioning of Maldives parliament and judiciary should be started, all the political prisoners should be freed. Further, India should protect its national interest because of the dangers that are posed by China. Now, the former president of Maldives, Mohammad Nasheed, has asked India to showcase gunboat diplomacy. Now, gunboat diplomacy means the display of naval power with the threat of military action such as naval blockade. Now, he has asserted that India has represented itself as a net security provider in the Indian Ocean. Therefore, India should provide security to democracy in Maldives. Now, based on the demand of Mohammad Nasheed, the former president of Maldives, the military intervention by India has the following concerns. First, it is that India has asserted that it is not India's role or duty to form democracy in Maldives. It is for the people of Maldives to decide their political future. Further, India should not enforce democracy from a top-up approach of a military intervention. Further, India has previously intervened during humanitarian crises in the neighborhood. These include in Bangladesh in the year 1971 when Bangladesh was freed from Pakistan, in Jaffna, Sri Lanka during the 1980s. Now, although India had intervened in the neighboring countries due to humanitarian crisis, currently there is no humanitarian crisis in Maldives. That is why India is refraining from interfering in Maldives. Further, South Asia is a hotbed of political and constitutional crisis, and India cannot intervene each time. Further, Indian intervention might politically strengthen fundamentalist groups in Maldives and give China an excuse to also intervene and reimpose India's big brother image in South Asia. Now, previously, India has intervened in a crisis in Maldives. It was a military intervention. Now, the name of that military intervention was Operation Cactus. Now, this is important for us. Now, during the Operation Cactus, there was an attempt of a coup against the Maldivian government in 1988. This was by the mercenaries of Tamil secessionist movement, which was led by the Tamilian separatist groups of Sri Lanka, which is famously known as LTTE. Now, this coup was failed due to military intervention in Maldives by India, and it was codenamed as Operation Cactus. Now, the recent instances of deterioration of relations between India and Maldives have been presented in the present news articles. These include, first, Maldives is not renewing work visas of Indians who are already working in Maldives. Further, Maldives is not issuing work permits to Indians for fresh jobs in Maldives. And finally, the refusal by Maldives to extend the deadline of Indian helicopters given to Maldives on lease. India wants this lease to be extended. However, Maldivian government is refusing this. Now, the future of India-Maldives relations does not look good because up till now, people-to-people relations were not affected by the issues between both countries. However, these recent steps by Maldives government would negatively affect the people-to-people relation. And India wants that people-to-people relations should not be deteriorated because of political issues. Now, the question that was asked in mains examination in year 2013 was about the political developments that had happened in 2013. We have discussed all the political developments that have happened in Maldives since 2012 till 2018. We have also highlighted the recent issues between India and Maldives. Also, we have learned that how these political developments are affecting India. So, this is an important topic from mains point of view. With this, let us move on to the next article. There is an article on page number 8. Now, the focus of the article is that policies are required to decongest traffic on Indian road. Now this topic is an overlapping topic between the General Studies Paper 1 and the General Studies Paper 3. Under the Paper 1, it falls under the topic urbanization and its issues, and in the Paper 3, it falls under the infrastructure and roads. Now previously in the year 2014, a question was asked in the Paper 3. The question read, the National Urban Transport Policy emphasizes on moving people instead of moving vehicles. Discuss critically the success of various strategies of government in this regard. Now under this article, we will try to understand the problems that arise due to traffic congestion, and we will also analyze the suggestions that have been provided by the author in this case. The author analyzes the problems that arise due to traffic congestion. Now due to the increased number of motor vehicles on road, the pollution in urban areas is increasing. The traffic congestion is increasing the quantity of fuel used, and which in turn is leading to an increased vehicular emission. Further, increased vehicular pollution has affected the general health of city dwellers. And finally, it reduces the economic efficiency of our cities. So the problems that arise from traffic congestion are the increase in air pollution, increase in the quantity of fuel that is being used, increase in vehicular emission, the impact on general health of city dwellers, and the reduction in economic efficiency of the cities. Now, how to decongest this traffic on the roads? For this, the author says that use of public transport should be increased. He further explains that it would decrease the number of private vehicles on road. He further says that the per capita emission and the use of fuel in public transport is low. So these are the two benefits which are likely due to the use of public transport. However, there are certain issues with the public transport which need to be addressed. And these issues are that public transport does not provide last mile connectivity, and it does not provide luxury convenience. That is, the quality of public transport is generally low, and the last mile connectivity is an issue. Now the author says that to address the issues with the public transport, a modification is required in the regulations to ease the use of app-based transport services. He further explains that these app-based transport services provide last mile connectivity and luxury convenience. Further, he says that the app-based transport services provide diversity of options from private to shared transportation to pool cost. So these are the various benefits of the app-based transport services as highlighted by the author. However, he says that there are certain issues with these app-based transport services. These are the cost is generally more than the public transport in an app-based transport service. Secondly, Motor Vehicles Act needs to be changed to ease issuing of permits to vehicles which are plying through the app-based transportation. So the two issues with the app-based transportation services are that the cost is generally high and the Motor Vehicle Act needs to be changed. So under this article, the author has highlighted the problems of traffic congestion. He has further suggested that to decongest traffic on roads, the use of public transport should be increased. However, he says that there are certain issues with the public transport which need to be addressed. And for addressing those issues, he says that there is a need for the increase in use of app-based transport services. Further, he says that the cost of the app-based transport services are generally higher than the public transport. And finally, the Motor Vehicle Act needs to be changed to ease the issuing of permits to the vehicles which are using app-based transportation. So the analysis provided by the author can be used in questions related to urbanization or transportation. With this, we have come to the end of today's discussion. For more DNS videos, subscribe and press the bell icon. Now let us move on to the question for the day.